Yeah, welcome, guys. I hope, Marvin, you can hear me because I haven't heard from you or seen from you, but I see your square down there. But welcome to a beautiful Thursday afternoon in Southern California. It is currently 6:30 p.m. PDT on April 30th, 2020, and we are going to get involved in a discussion on the concept of beauty. This is Pact, the philosophy and critical thinking project that I, Jordan Tremaine, work on. And if you guys want some more information about this or other events and stuff like that, you can go to my website, which is totally live, jordantremaine.com. And all the information for all my events and the podcasts that I run and everything is on there. So we're going to talk a little bit about beauty. But first, I wanted to kind of explain a couple of things about beauty and then kind of get into a discussion. So to start off, as kind of like a palate cleanser, beauty is a word in English right now that's like a noun. And as it's shown on the screen, it is a combination of qualities such as shape, color, or form that pleases the aesthetic senses, especially sight. And etymology-wise, it's like the history of the word. It comes from French or Old French, and those words were bellus and beaut. I hope I'm pronouncing those correctly, and those mean beautiful and fine. So the definition of beauty, I think, is kind of not that helpful in actually understanding what it is in a way that's useful. But I think it does kind of give you a starting point. And to me, and from what I've understood in my life and my experience, beauty is something that each person typically experiences for themselves or decides what it is for themselves. And then we come together and we kind of deal with everybody's different definitions of beauty kind of in this, in the world and society. There was a workshop that I did a while ago on a concept called identity. And I think that beauty is very connected to identity. And in fact, I would go as far to say that beauty is a type of identifier. It's like a flavor of ice cream, if identity is the concept of ice cream. And so I wanted to talk about like 3 different types of beauty today, because that's what I was thinking there were, but maybe there's more types. And those were the abstract concept of beauty, kind of like what's the definition, then the outward concept of beauty, which is like each person, what do they see outside of them that's beautiful? Why do I say this is beautiful? Why do I say that's beautiful? And then the inward concept of beauty. What do I think of myself? And why do I think that I am beautiful or not beautiful? And do my outward and my inward concepts match up with each other and stuff like that? So that is kind of where we're going to start talking. And in terms of the concept of beauty, I want to hear kind of what you guys think. If you want to share a little bit, like what is this concept of beauty to you?
Everybody's gone.
It's all good.
No,
Welcome
I'm
back.
here. Sorry, I have like food in my mouth.
I'm here too. I don't know if you guys can hear me.
We can hear you now. That's the first time I've heard you, but I can't see you, Marvin.
Oh, I don't have a webcam.
Oh, it's all good.
My bad.
But what do you guys think? Anything, like when you think of the word beauty, what comes to mind?
Is it like a type of value you can say, like, in order for you to know what beauty is, you need to know the opposite. So you need to know what's ugly and what's not beautiful.
Maybe.
So it's a comparison to something that is not.
I really like that. I like the idea that beauty is tied to value because of the way in which like we even have our currency, right? Because people are like, oh, let's trade stones and these pretty things. Like, why did you assign this one tangible thing the value? Because they didn't really understand how difficult it was to find it, like way back when, right? And then, or how we like treat others in society because we value like prettier people.
Okay. And that's interesting that I didn't think of it like Marvin was saying, but it sounds like ugly. Beauty is kind of an extreme where you have this like dial, and like depending on what you think of it, like if you think it's beautiful, that means you think it's like way over here. And if you think it's ugly, then it's way over there. And there are shades of gray in between, but being beautiful is like an extreme form of something.
Well, I think you said something in the beginning about everybody has their own concept of what beauty is, and then we come together as a society or culture or whatever and decide what's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And I wonder if like if beauty is just this random thing that we just said, oh, that's beautiful, or if beauty is tied to something useful. Because like if you take the just like attractive, like a young woman with, you know, decent breasts and wider hips is generally considered more attractive because she's seen as being able to breed, you know. And so is beauty tied to just the feature itself, or possibly the usefulness of the feature, whether it's conscious or not?
Okay, so can beauty be a form of a judgment of utility? Ooh, good morning. Hello, Pax.
He wants Phoebe to play, but she won't. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay, thank you. That's an interesting point. I think that kind of idea gets interesting because even utility is subjective. There's the idea where you may think this is useful and I don't think it's useful, like makeup. But then I think further there's like wide hips and breasts. Like I don't know if that's an actual telltale sign of like this person might be better for reproducing, or if our society has believed that and it's basically like indoctrination from every angle, to where we've thought that for so long that it's like this rolling indoctrination that everybody believes it, even though it's not true at all.
Well, maybe the wider hips means you're less likely to die when that big head comes out.
Maybe.
Just say.
I'm just floating the idea because like I don't see why like big breasts would give more milk than small breasts. Or
No.
something like that. So then why would big breasts be like more beautiful if we're talking about utility?
Well,
maybe
go ahead.
Oh no, like I'm thinking like maybe like more fat storage or something, like something's signifying like health is something beautiful too. I feel like that's a relationship with it.
Yeah, like when women are pregnant, their breasts get bigger because they're holding all this milk. So maybe it's that association of bodies are like fruitful when they have bigger breasts, and there was no differentiation between like pre and post baby.
Okay.
And I think also going back to what Marvin said, in the past, not so much anymore, at least in maybe first world countries, but like he said, like fat storage is definitely a survival technique. And so in places where there could be famines and whatnot, the fact that you're holding on to fat storage means you'll probably live longer and you'll be less of a burden to the tribe to support.
It's interesting how you said in places with famine, because that would mean like back to like the subjectivity of this, like even maybe like biological signals may not be universal because it depends on the situation that you find yourself in.
I would think so.
So like maybe like hairier people are more attractive in colder climates, and less hairy people are more attractive in hot climates.
I would have definitely agree with the less hairy and the hot
Mm-hmm.
climate. Because if they're in a hot climate, they're hairy and they're sweaty and they're gross, you know.
Okay. Huh.
But since, like, at this point in time, since we're so mixed and people of all sorts of, all degrees of hairiness or whatever, can potentially be in any place in the universe. Like in the past, they might have been more controlled in a certain area. So like the Vikings were really hairy, the Africans maybe not so much. But, and so in that place, there was that standard because those were the people that were there. But now, because we move around so much, you could be anywhere under any condition.
Okay.
I think that takes us back to like judgment of utility. Like these traits were necessary, but now that we don't need it, that's how like the utility evolves, because we can now focus on all these other aspects because they don't matter as much. But then like tied to wealth, right? People are like, oh, you can be uglier if you're richer. Or it's like, oh, it's a good thing that you're smart because you ain't pretty. Like all those like all those cliche things. Like because like there's the utility aspect of it. You are of value in one way, so you can like be less in another.
So it's an aspect of value judgment. And it's interesting that you brought up like being rich or being smart, because I would tie those back to what my mom was saying about like the survivability, where I may not have a bunch of fat stores, but I have money, which is like access to food.
Mm-hmm.
Or I might not have a bunch of fat stores, but I'm smart, so I can figure out how to get food. And it's more like this person is beautiful because they have a higher likelihood of not only surviving themselves, but maybe helping me survive, or maybe not becoming a burden to me.
Yeah, and then you just get into all aspects of like vain and people's different tastes in folks, right? Or it's like, what kind of utility do you have in my life? Just to entertainment. Like, do we speak on the same level? Do we share the same interests? Because at that point, then it's like, if I'm presented with 5 options, they can all take care of me in the same way. Then I get to be really nuanced.
Okay. So, wow, I didn't expect you guys to go too much into like the John Stuart Mill kind of utilitarianism, like risk analysis type of go at it. But okay, that's interesting. I'm curious to hear what you guys think about not necessarily what is or what is not considered beautiful, but moving towards the different perspectives that people put on things outside of them that's beautiful. Oh, that's a beautiful flower. Oh, that's a beautiful person. Oh, that's a beautiful song. And why I would say that about like a song which doesn't necessarily have a need to survive, but we still equate that word with other things, and it may still be utility, but I want to hear what you guys think.
Well, I think with a song particularly, because there's some songs that when I listen to them, either like the whole song or maybe a certain part of the song might make me cry or make me feel this strong emotion because of the sound. Like there's this one song, what's that one? I don't know, there's this one song and there's like this piano part in the middle of it. And it makes me, it just makes me cry because that part to me is just so pretty. And so sometimes the beauty of a song or of music or the words, they just like tap into your emotion and they tap into like maybe your core. And so to you, that brings out, that just feels there's this beautiful thing that maybe makes you happy or maybe makes you sad or maybe makes you feel a different thing, but you appreciate the feelings that it brings out in you.
Okay. So maybe it has value to you. It gives you value by existing.
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have anything to say? That's good input, Mom.
I really like it. The evocation of emotion.
Oh, the song is called Clubbed to Death.
Okay.
That would make me feel some things.
You should listen to it though. Like it's like clubbing, but clubbed to death. But it's a great. It's like there's this beautiful part in the middle. You'll love it.
Okay. All
I'll
right.
give it a listen.
Yo, start a Spotify playlist. Music recommendations from Pact workshops.
Yeah, it'll definitely be eclectic.
It's pretty.
Yeah, but I think that's it. Like it makes me feel sad or in awe or it's beautiful. Like I was looking outside and I'm looking over like some concrete houses in a mall. I was like, man, I got such a pretty view right now. And I'm like, if anybody else were sitting in my shoes who might like have a beachfront view, they'd be like, what the F are you talking about? You're looking at a mall. But to me, it's like it's the emotion, it's the attachment to it that like, yeah, it's the emotion. It's not the actual physical thing itself.
Okay. So there's the idea of something within itself having an intrinsic property of beauty because it exists in a certain way, and that may be connected to its ability to be useful in the future, like to survive or reproduce or whatever. And then there is like the utility of something where I can use this for something, and it could be to make me feel a certain way. Like I know I sometimes I like geek out over certain tools because they're just so useful, or it makes the job so easy. And to me, they have beauty in the design to where the person that designed it didn't go and make it like ultra complicated. They did something really simple, but they did it really well. And you're like, wow, this just works so good. And it fits in my hand and all this stuff is like great. And maybe it's beautiful because it is something that I find useful, especially like in a splendid way, like useful in a way that brings me happiness. Because sometimes I never am the person to use the tools. I'm just looking at it like, wow, that's a tool.
Yeah, tools don't evoke emotion for me. I'm like,
Sorry.
that's cool. No, but different perspective of beauty.
Well, Justine, I don't want to poo-poo on your opinions, but I feel like nobody has respect for tools until they've done the job with the wrong tool.
Oh,
Yep.
I totally get that.
Yep.
And then you
Like,
see
no,
the right. Go ahead.
I was like, no, I totally understand why there's an appreciation, but because I've not done the struggle,
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh yeah, right.
Oh no, like better yet, what about not having the tool and then you're gonna put two tools together to make one tool that's not really meant for that?
Oh yeah, like just MacGyver.
And then
oh yeah.
how proud are you of that? And you're like, that's mine. Especially when people start like objectifying non-animate objects and like, that's my baby. That desk I just built, look at how beautiful it is. And it'd be like a janky desk.
Mm-hmm.
But they built it. They invested the time.
That's
Well, I'll
interesting.
tell you what, Jordan. I remember that conversation we were talking about screws.
Oh yeah, screws are dope.
Okay, so I got these new, well, not new. I got them from my friend, but these bar stools, and the screws underneath the bar stools were like two of them were like, you know, those little feet that you put on the bottom of a leg of something, and like all kinds of screws. And I was like, I can't take this. Even though I can't see it, I can't take this. So I had to go to Lowe's, and finally I found the right screw that served the purpose, that looked right, that made me feel happy. And I was like, okay, now I can sleep at night because my bar stools have the right screws.
Yeah, Mom. Speaking of that, this is the screw I was talking about.
Oh.
Oh yeah, I saw those when I was at the store. The stealth drilling screws.
Yeah, like this is a drill bit. And I don't
Yeah.
know if you guys can see it, but there's little like, where is it? There's like little divots cut out of the screw thread,
Mhm.
and that helps to like move material up. It gives like a little chute to help move material up. It's painted so it won't rust. It has these little spines up here, so when it screws in and actually goes flush, those like grip the wood, and so it doesn't come out. It's like this is such a good screw.
It's different kinds of screws, right? It's like I thought it was just a screw, that's it. But no,
Oh no, this is somebody's like.
there's like science in screws.
Oh yeah.
I
Isn't
was kind of
there like
expecting you to go like this.
standardization or something?
Oh.
That one.
That's a good one. Just
Hey, Jordan, do you know about that? The two standardizations of screws are just like a square post. Like I think it originated in in Canada, and then over here we had Phillips.
yeah.
And yeah, I think that was kind of interesting too. Like we would have square post if it wasn't for Henry Ford or something like that. I don't know. America.
Also, this one is a star bit.
Oh. Ah.
Square.
Again, if you're gonna bring things to the camera, you have to make sure they're in focus. Just like all the beauty bloggers.
Okay, that's enough about screws. Let's get back to beauty.
Okay.
Wow, Mom, way to be insensitive about other people's definition of beauty.
I think screws are beautiful.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, like I would say, and maybe that's why people are beautiful, and I think maybe that's why kind of like tying this back into the utility and my mom not caring about screws, but maybe because I've noticed, I feel that the value of beauty is higher to older people typically in my experience. And like what I said before, talking about how Justine, like tools may not be beautiful to you because you haven't had to like go through all this BS and try to do stuff without the tool. Maybe like beauty becomes a more intense or more important quality in terms of like acknowledging the utility and the simplicity that you accomplish the utility, because as you've moved through your life, you've seen it bad so many times in so many different ways that like you're extremely appreciative that you found something that worked and it was simple and it wasn't like a PhD you had to study. It was just like, oh, this just works. And you're like,
Well, I mean, that can be equated to like when you're dating people too. Like when you're changing in places of your life, you find different folks like attractive. And so you calling that other person beautiful is no longer based on how they look or how they make you feel, but like the compatibility, like how are they in your life? Because when you're younger, you might not need as much communication, right? Because you're doing other things. But as you're getting older, sorry, Jordan, your mom's in the room. But as you're getting older,
she's fine. She knows.
Yeah.
I know what's up. I know what's up.
Exactly. I mean, you got babies. But yeah, but as you get older, like I find that it's important the tools my partner has, being able to communicate and stuff. And so when I see somebody who has like banging communication skills or is like polite or something, I was like, oh, hello. What's your name? Can I get to know you? Right? Because they have all these
That
like
sounds like that other stuff to me.
No, it's because like yeah, at certain points, I don't know. I realized mine changing my dating habits have changed as I get older. That's because I'm like, oh man, that person's so fine in different ways. Like maybe not as conventional, but yeah.
Okay. And I want to add something to that where I know, Marvin, this has definitely happened to both of us, but like you're doing something, you're using a tool and it's working for you. Your tool could be communication skills, Justine. Okay. If that helps
I'm
you
looking
relate.
at your mom because it's really funny.
And it's like working for you. And then like basically you see an infomercial, whatever the equivalent of that is in your life, and you see a new tool and you're like, whoa, I've been doing this in a terrible way. I'm going to buy that tool and now I'm going to do it this way. To where like say you were like screwing in screws with a screwdriver, and then you learned that power drills were a thing, and you were like, whoa, I'm never using a screwdriver again.
Mhm.
And that could be like not necessarily like what you were doing was bad, but you learned a better way, and now you do that. Like I do that in rock climbing all the time, where I learn a better technique, and then now I'm like, I don't even know why I would do the other thing because it's like way less efficient.
Mm.
And then you learn higher forms of beauty. You're able to appreciate higher forms of beauty, back to like ability to appreciate kind of stuff. And then because of that, you desire higher beauty, and you don't really want the lower beauty as much. It's like when you're a kid and you eat Hershey chocolate all the time, or you eat Little Caesars pizza and you're like, this is the best, I love pizza. And then as you get older, you're like, this is, because you've tried
Mm.
better pizza and better chocolate, and you're
You
like,
don't know what you don't know.
that's why you have to be careful about the high quality things you try, because they're going to make it harder to eat the cheaper, more affordable version of it. So yeah, I eat nice chocolate and nice pizza, but I try to eat cheap pasta. I don't really get into pasta too much because I want to be able to afford pasta.
I think there's something to be said to enjoy both though, the cheap and the not cheap. Because like I can make some good homemade macaroni and cheese, but at the same time, there's something so comforting about like a Kraft mac and cheese. Like
I've been living off Kraft mac and cheese since this apocalypse.
Nope.
it's the
Ooh.
nostalgia and stuff. And like so you know my little brother's a chef, and when he's in town, he's like, "Can we go get some Del Taco?" He works at a 3 Michelin star restaurant, and he's like, "Nah, Del Taco or Wiener Schnitzel with like extra fake cheese. That stuff is bomb."
Mm.
Well, I feel like, yeah, you have the nostalgia factor. But to fight you, Mom, like as soon as I learned that cheese came in forms other than powdered, like I stopped eating Kraft. I was just like,
Oh.
I was like done.
Velveeta in the cabinet, you know, with the creamy cheese
Yeah,
packet.
that's yeah. And then I learned about Kraft and Barrel, and I was like, woo, let's go. So like I'll eat Kraft if I'm gonna die, but if I had a choice, I would like never choose Kraft.
Well, I wouldn't either, but I'm telling you, I've been jonesing for it. It's been the deal. Sometimes you just throw back. You just can't help yourself.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that. So maybe our concept of beauty can evolve over time based on our experiences and our knowledge of what we perceive to be better. And sometimes we could be like way wrong and be like calling stuff beautiful that's like not, and we're getting worse, and it's kind of like not in good taste, but we don't realize that. That's why we have friends.
But I mean, again, it's that utility to your life, right? Like maybe those ugly, terrible things are beautiful to those people because they refuse to know any better, or they're like it just makes them feel so good that they're like, it doesn't matter that it's hurting me in the long run, but looking at it makes me feel good.
Well, how about the Jordan said, you know, like there's this lower quality of a thing that you might think is beautiful until you might have been exposed to a higher quality thing. But aren't you allowed to choose what you think is beautiful? I mean, let's say you have been exposed to what Craft and Barrel or Craft, whatever you said. And I'm sorry, this stuff is delicious, but I'm still gonna go with the Craft sometimes. And I understand my husband, he's short and dumpy and bald and whatever, but there's something about him that I just can't find nowhere else. And so, even though the other person may not see the beauty in the thing that you do, they may not appreciate it in the way that you do. That doesn't take away the value of it for you. Now, they may not have the value of it, and that's okay. But do we have to have the same idea? I mean, do we all have to strive for this certain idea of beauty, or are we allowed to have our own ideas?
I think that we're allowed to have our own ideas. And I wasn't trying to say that there's like a universal quality scale that you measure. Like everybody has their own definition of quality. But what I think you highlighted right now, correct me if I'm wrong, but there's other things that may be seen as utility, but I think for the purposes of this conversation, it might be better to separate them from utility and talk about them separately. And what kind of dawned on me was novelty, or how rare something is. And maybe that thing that you just can't find anywhere else in your husband. Um, it could be something that's unique, or like you could be judging beauty on like bunch of different factors at the same time and doing like calculus meme kind of stuff, where you're like crunching all these numbers in your head about like what's the average beauty. He can communicate this well, but he's short, and then like he smells bad, but he has a good paycheck, and like all these things are happening in your mind. And like his average beauty, plus he might get some like bonus points for uniqueness. And also something I think that's very important in our living lives is memories. Like him being attached to your life and having history with you, may like multiple different beauties and multiple different types of beauty. And then the history memory thing I think is very strong in that. Maybe that's why you like craft powdered stuff. Maybe you have like a memory associated with it, or you have like a history with it. So I think that can be kind of a kind of different ways to judge beauty or add to the judgment of beauty. Yeah, Julie?
Sure.
Is that kind of in line with what you were talking about, Mom?
Yeah.
And I think there's a term, it's like bittersweet, where I think sometimes beauty can come from something not being beautiful but existing, or beauty can come from something persisting despite the fact that it wasn't optimized to persist. So like the underdog kind of thing, where that can make for a beautiful story specifically because I didn't think this thing was useful and it ended up being the only thing that worked. So there's like a, oh, go ahead.
I think it just goes back to, it doesn't make me feel good, because like we like feeling surprised. So like so if it makes me feel good, it makes me happier. Me being happier means like living a better life, right? Or a good life. And that's what I need in order to survive. So it's like, yeah, beauty is, am I meeting like our Maslow hierarchy of needs type of deal? And then once all those are met, how picky can I be? Can I be picky with like the people I'm involving in, the things that I enjoy? Like the beauty of a quiet morning, because if you don't get a lot of quiet in your life.
Okay. Yeah, I say in my mind a lot. I don't really say it out loud too much because I think it sounds a little pretentious. But your favorite thing is only your favorite thing because you can't have it all the time. And if you were able to have it all the time, it would stop being your favorite thing. And I think the beauty of something has something to do with the supply and demand curve of it, to where if like in The Incredibles, there was one of the most interesting villain concepts I've ever seen in The Incredibles, like the first one, where the villain, he was so like hurt that he wasn't allowed to be a superhero that his revenge was to make everybody a superhero. That way, being a superhero wasn't special anymore. That's what his evil plot was about, to give everybody superpowers. And it's like,
and to kill off the actual superheroes.
mm.
Like, let's not forget that fact.
I did forget that, but okay, maybe he wanted to kill somebody.
Detail.
That's really why he was a villain.
Okay, that's fair enough. That makes more sense.
Sorry, not to like burst the bubble.
Pop a balloon, but I'm still gonna like keep going with what I was saying, even though I'm acknowledging there's more to the story. But I was saying that because something can be beautiful because it's not common, and you can take the beauty out of something by making it common. And I think like we had certain things a long time ago that were really beautiful because they were hard to make. But nowadays, because we have modern technology, they're just like easy to make. So it's just like, oh yeah, that's a whatever thing. But like 100 years ago, it's like, oh my gosh, you have one of those. That's like, oh my, can I come over and see it? And nowadays, it's like, oh yeah, you have 100,000 of those. That's why do you have so many? And so,
Yeah, because in the book that I was reading, The Beauty Myth, that's one of the things that makes women beautiful is the rarity of either the body shape, whatever is popular at the moment, and the effort it takes to get it, to maintain it, and to show it off. And the effort and money and time and whatever it takes to fit yourself into this beauty mold, the better you do it and you're more beautiful. And there's always this pressure to continually live up to this standard, even though as you age, you don't look like that anymore. As you have a baby, you don't look like that anymore. And so it's like, if you still want to be considered beautiful, then you have to go through all these hoops, like wearing makeup and fixing hair and wearing a corset or being skinny or not eating or not talking, not having an opinion, whatever. So the different things that are considered beautiful in a woman, take effort. Men, they don't have to take the effort in the same way. I mean, I think now it is more so, but historically it wasn't so. But for a woman to be considered beautiful, she has to jump through all these hoops on a regular basis, and it's like so much pressure to do that, because otherwise you're kind of ignored. And like right now, Justine, you look very beautiful with all your makeup, and I'm sure you feel very beautiful. But I know, and if you go outside, you're going to get some attention, but I'm sure you could act or dress in such a way that you would be invisible. So the effort of doing these things makes you worth looking at. And when you don't, you're just invisible. And so we feel, instead of saying, whatever you look like, you're okay, we put a value on the effort a person takes to present themselves, just in public. And that we consider this one to be beautiful and this one not.
okay.
That eyeliner, that's some good stuff right there.
Thank you. Take some time in the morning. But I think it goes back to the rarity of it, right? Like when people first started staining their lips with berries or putting charcoal on their eye for like eyeliner or filling the brows, like the women who were able to do that, like there weren't many women who did that. So it's like, ooh, look at that, something new. It's something I've never seen before. But if we look at that makeup compared to makeup now, we're like, that's busted face. It's uneven. It's weird. Like, or we think about how like beauty and standards, because now having makeup is just so common. So the more complicated the makeup look, the more rare it is, and that's why it's so much prettier. Like I see people painting photos on their eyelids. And I'm like, why? Why do you need clouds with little balloons in a house? Like, oh, that's cool. You put up.
What?
Does that also take you like they'll do like a whole portrait? I'll send you some YouTube videos later. But yeah,
That is.
but that scene is beautiful because it's so rare. And I'm like, ooh,
Well,
look
and
at that.
also, like you said, historically, like putting the kohl on their eyes or putting the berries on their lips, if you could, in some way, afford to either buy that thing or to spend your time
Mhm.
putting on makeup rather than farming, then you were considered a more precious thing, which maybe we'll call that beautiful, because you didn't have to work or you had enough money to be able to do these things. So the common woman who was like, knee deep in cow poop in the farm, she wasn't as beautiful. But this woman over here who doesn't have to do all that, maybe she smells a little better, great. Because like
Yeah.
back in the past, getting married wasn't necessarily for love or beauty. It was for making kids. It's like, so you don't have a wife, you don't have a husband, let's go.
And then that takes us into colorism now, right? The beauty industry, especially in like Asian countries, there's a big market just for skin lighteners.
Yeah.
Because being outside with,
And African countries.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. And it's because of being outside is noted with like you're doing hard labor,
Right.
right? And so if you were lighter, it's because like, oh, you have the money, you can do this. Again, it goes back to like how useful is your position in life and what your look represents and how does that fit into mine.
Yeah. I want to say, welcome, Rocky. I know I can't hear you or see you, but hopefully you can hear and see us. We're talking a little bit about beauty. And in terms of the skin whitening thing, I think in the past, when we've been less diverse societies, like North America was Native Americans and Europe was Europeans, rather than like this whole melting pot thing, it was more towards the light skin is you're less, you work less, so you're more important because you don't have to work. But I think now also there's like this addition of this racial undertone where lighter skinned people are just more valued because we advertise this idea of lighter skinned people being better. Not because they work less, but just because inherently the lighter skin is better.
And so it's the whole systematic part of that too, right? Because we're now promoting this and we're indoctrinating like our kids. We think about the Barbie effect, right? Where they put the two dolls in front of kids. One's a black doll, one's a white doll, and they ask these little girls like, which doll's the prettier doll? And like majority of the students chose this like white doll. And they're like, well, why? It's because our standards of beauty and like what we're exposing our kids to. Because I don't totally agree with people who are like, don't be on social media, don't look at TV and stuff like that. We don't want to fuck up your ideas of beauty. But I think there's also some greatness to it because like kids can just grow up and figure out their own value system as opposed to being taught this value system.
Yeah. Well, going along with that Barbie experiment that you're talking about, they did another one with the skinny Barbie and the more realistic size Barbie. And they all wanted the skinny Barbie because again, that's what we've been taught.
I saw like a meme or a post that asked like a really interesting Barbie related question. And it was like, what does Ken do for a living? And like, there's all these Barbies where like Barbie is a lawyer, Barbie's a doctor, Barbie's an accountant, all like Barbie. And then like Ken never has a job.
That's because they created because Ken can be whatever the hell he wants. Barbie needs to have a title to show that she is like the person in the industry, breaking down barriers.
I thought that was super interesting how like sometimes there's a really good book called Nudge, and it's about this idea called choice architecture, by where people don't really tell you what to choose or tell you what to do, but they structure the format in which you make your choices in a way where it encourages you to make certain choices. And an idea for that is like 401ks. Like a lot of companies give you 401ks, and if you don't select one of their 3 packages, they'll like default you to one package. But somebody chose which one was the default, and the default almost always gets the majority of all the picks. And so somebody is saying like this portfolio is going to get more. And by doing certain things like that, or by like putting certain ideas out there, you can subtly train people or subtly manipulate their ability to make choices without directly doing it, because they are still able to make the choice if they want. But they got to be very well informed. They got to understand that that's a choice and overcome the burden or the barrier of slight inconvenience, which can be very hard for humans. And that I think can be really big in manipulating our concepts of beauty and utility. Bam. So yeah, I think Barbie is a really good case study, and it's interesting because I don't think I was an action figures kind of person. I was more of like a Legos and Connects kind of person and models.
And Zoe, yeah.
And I was looking at some superheroes, like some superhero history and like new superheroes coming out. And it was interesting to me that depending on the era and what was happening in the world at any one time, companies would come out with specific superheroes to address current events. And in the comic books at the time, they were very pointed at current events. And sometimes the villains were like caricatures of people who in the nation where they created that superhero were like right now we might create a villain that looks strikingly similar to Putin. And doing those kind of things where you create facsimiles in strange ways in different places to warp people's perception or encourage them to think something is more beautiful, like how we create this Barbie doll and we make it really popular. And by doing that, we're creating this image of beauty and putting it everywhere, and not saying like, oh, this is beautiful, but like this is the only definition of beauty, but it's by definition of reality the most popular definition because it's everywhere. And the black dolls are not everywhere. The more naturally sized are not everywhere. The shorter ones are not everywhere. But this one figure is the standard shape that we made $10,000 of and distributed everywhere.
That's why representation is so important. Like, and I think that leads to the third thing where we're talking about like inward perspective of beauty. Like, okay, how much is our self beauty and worth determined by how we're comparing ourselves to like our outside factors, right? Because I think of young me self-worth compared to now, like I think I'm banging. I think I'm the best thing ever. But it's taken me a while because I've seen I've been exposed to more people who are like me, whether it be like in my life, in the media, things like that. Like when Mulan hit the scene, I was like, that's my girl, right? Like I'm not even like full Chinese or anything like that.